Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Press podcast, where we as leaders, and we see pressure as a privilege because it is in the pressing that oil is produced and the purpose is revealed. My name is Mike Z. I'll be your host for today. Happy August, everybody. I hope that your summer is going really well. Last month, we began a conversation about the leadership principles that guide our team and our staff at Expectation Church, where I help lead. And we talked about three of our leadership principles. We talked about assume positive intent. We talked about clarify expectations, and we talked about collaborate with ownership. And if you missed that episode, I really want to encourage you to just go back and check it out, because a lot of these principles are interconnected and they kind of build on one another. And last month, we learned how assuming positive intent shapes how we view people, and clarifying expectations shapes how we communicate with people, and collaborate with ownership shapes how we work alongside people. And today, I want to continue the conversation. I want to share the other and the final three leadership principles that we have. And so the ones for today have a lot to do with kind of how we build and how we function as a team. And those three leadership principles are going to be Delevate, and I didn't stutter. It's called Delevate. We'll unpack that more. Cover Down, and Team One. And here's kind of the progression that I want you to see with these three. Delevate builds capacity. Cover Down creates resilience. And Team One protects unity. Okay, healthy leadership isn't about becoming like the one person that everybody depends on. It's about building a team that supports each other, that can make decisions based on what's best for the mission and for the entire organization, not just our individual areas. So excited to share this with you today. Come on, let's dive on. Principle number one, Delevate. And Delevate is kind of a made-up word in our organization. Our lead pastor made it up. It is the combination, it is the merger of two words. It is the word delegate and the word elevate combined. You get Delevate. And it's important because as leaders, we don't want to simply just delegate work. We want to elevate people. And there's an important difference, right? Like delegation is usually just about getting something off of your plate, right? Like you have way too much to do. And so you find somebody and it's like, all right, here, like you take this. And sure, like at times, delegation can be necessary, but now we put a different spin on it. To delevate is something different. It's about more than simply just getting the task accomplished or completed. It's really figuring out who I can develop with having this task completed. And so the challenge, like the question, like the gut check of Delevate is asking ourselves the question, who am I empowering today? And who am I pouring into? Because leadership isn't just about getting the job done, and leadership is about raising people up. It's about raising them up to accomplish the mission, right? I mean, most anyone can complete a simple task, right? They can check the box. And yeah, of course, there are areas of competency and expertise, but a great leader thinks about how the task can actually become an opportunity to grow somebody. And so as a leader, and don't just show your team what to do, teach them how you think. Man, how can I share with them what I know? Right? How can I give them an opportunity to take responsibility? Delevate is all about the ability to replace yourself. And I know maybe at first, hearing that sounds a little counterintuitive, right? Because a lot of leaders are afraid of being replaced, right? So like it's natural to think that our value comes from being the only person that can do something, right? I want to be the person that everyone has to call on. I want to be the go-to. Like I want to have, the answers that nobody else has, and I want to hold all of the information and the responsibilities, because being needed, that feels like job security, right? Like I'm important, I'm valued, and I recognize how that can feel, but in reality, the opposite is normally true. Like if you replace yourself constantly, you will always have a place. If you replace yourself, you'll always have a place. Ironically, it's like it's the person who is great at delevating. It's the person who's great at replacing themselves. That's the person that is often the one that you can't afford to replace. When you are the only person who can do something, you actually don't become more valuable. You become the bottleneck, because now everything has to move through you. Every question has to come to you. Every decision waits for you. Every time that you're not there or that you leave, progress slows down. And sure, like that might make you feel important, but it doesn't make the organization healthy. The goal of leadership is not to create dependency, it's to create capacity. There's a really great book that will expound on this a lot more by Dan Sullivan. It's called Who, Not How. It's called Who, Not How, and I encourage you to check it out. I did the audiobook for it. Very good. Because as leaders, man, you should be constantly asking, like, man, who can learn this? Who can take this thing on, right? Like, who can I bring into this conversation? Who could I give this opportunity to? And look, it doesn't mean that like you immediately hand over your most significant responsibilities and simply just walk away, okay? To delegate is more than simply just like dumping your tasks on somebody, okay? It requires intentionality. Like you've got to be able to pour into them, to provide context, to communicate desired outcomes. You've got to be able to clarify expectations, right? To coach them through this, allow them to ask questions and make mistakes. And eventually, as people grow and as they are elevated, you even got to be able to give them room to lead themselves. I think a lot of leaders struggle with that. Often we're okay with, someone knowing how to do something so long as they do it exactly the way that we would choose to do it, right? Like we say we want to empower people, but then we step in to micromanage, step in to change something that they did. We take control, step back into the thing, to the project. And over time, even though we've told the person that we're trying to empower them, to Delevate, our actions are showing to them that they don't actually own the project, the task, the responsibility. It's like simply being borrowed until we decide to step in and take it back. And so there's a difference between like protecting the standard and protecting your preferences, right? Like I understand, of course, some things obviously, really do have to be done a certain way. Like there may be a standard or a policy, an outcome, something like you can't compromise on, like understandable. But a lot of times people are able to accomplish the desired result. They just might get there differently than you would. And that's not failure. Like that's a part of leadership development. Like, I don't know if you know this, like there is a cost to developing people, right? Like when you Delevate, especially in the beginning, like sure, whatever the thing is, like I'm sure you could probably do it faster yourself. Like you could probably explain it in less time than it takes to train someone, right? Like you could probably complete it with fewer mistakes. But if you continue to do everything because you're better at it, you're the fastest at it, you do it flawlessly all the time, you're always going to be the person doing everything. And I mean, think about what responsibilities that you carry now and today. And I mean, how many of those things were once new to you, right? I think about, my roles over the years as well. At some point, like there was somebody, a leader that gave you an opportunity, right? Somebody who was there to Delevate you, somebody who answered your questions and allowed you to learn and to make mistakes. Someone who trusted you before you really even fully maybe had proven yourself, someone who gave you room to grow and room to lead. And now, as a part of the leadership progression, leadership is requiring you to do the same thing for somebody else. So I'll say it like this. Look, you might not be able to fill somebody else's cup, but you can always empty yours. You might not be able to fill somebody else's cup, but you can always be emptying yours. And so, share what you know and share your experiences, explain to others how you think, what your perspective is, let someone observe you, invite them into the conversation that they maybe wouldn't normally be a part of, and give them an opportunity to stretch themselves. And then, check in with them afterwards and help them process through it together. Because if you are not bringing somebody else along and teaching them how to do what you're doing, I mean, you might be accomplishing a lot, but you are not multiplying leaders. And as leaders, we're not doers, we're leaders. Okay. And that means part of our responsibility is intentionally creating and communicating a pathway of growth and purpose for others. A lot of leaders believe that they are developing people because they have given those people more work. But more work doesn't always equal more development. And so a couple of questions, a few things to consider this month under the idea of Delevate. Man, what are you currently doing that somebody else can be learning? Who could be shadowing you or assisting you? Who could start to own, a piece of the project or start to take on more responsibility? And are you just delegating tasks, or are you genuinely developing people? Am I really developing leaders? Okay. To Delevate says, I'm not going to measure my leadership only by what I accomplish personally. I'm going to measure it by what those I lead accomplish. So, Delevate. And principle number 2, cover down. And cover down is a domino effect of Delevate. Okay, so cover down means that when someone is unable to fulfill a role for some reason, there's somebody else that is prepared and willing to step in to cover down. And it's a domino effect because if as an organization, if as a team, if we Delevate appropriately, then the team should always be able to cover down. When there is a hole, when there's a gap to fill, things don't come to a screeching halt. The team doesn't fall apart. We don't have to miss a beat because there's somebody who is ready and willing and available to step up, to step in, and to help carry that responsibility, to cover down. And covering down is about having the willingness to step into the gap. You see a hole, man, I'm going to fill it. I'm not even asking permission to. I'm just going to do it. It means that I care for the health of the whole. I care for the success of the team and not just my part. Not just the things that are solely listed on my job description. Oftentimes in unhealthy organizations, when a need arises, there's a hole to be filled, there's a gap, the most common response you'll hear in the moment is, well, that's not my job, or, well, that's not my problem. But on healthy teams, man, if there's a need, if there's a void, and you've got multiple people ready and willing to help and step in and serve however they can. Now, this doesn't mean that we don't have clear roles, clear boundaries, clear responsibilities, okay? It doesn't mean that everyone should constantly be interfering with everyone else's work. It doesn't mean that we've lost like all sense of accountability, okay? Covering down is not like the responsible people continuing to carry the weight for those who refuse to do their jobs. No, like that's enabling dysfunction, and we don't want to do that, okay? Covering down is not like rescuing someone from every consequence. It's not, hey, let me permanently absorb somebody else's responsibilities. No, it's not me stepping in trying to take control because I think I can do it better than you. No, cover down is a temporary response to a momentary need. It's when, someone might be sick, or maybe there's an emergency, or an unexpected need appears, or workload increases suddenly, or there's a team of the organization that is facing a difficult season. Okay, a healthy team that has enough trust, communication, and shared knowledge, they will be able to adapt in those moments. And this is where Delevate and Cover Down, this is where they kind of interconnect, because a team can only cover down effectively to the level that it has delevated consistently. Okay? If we haven't done the work to delevate, right? To delegate to people, elevate them, shared knowledge, if we haven't delevated consistently and properly, then we're not going to be able to cover down. Okay? If all of the knowledge about the role, the task, the thing, if all of the knowledge lives in one person's head, man, no one's able to step in and help. If one person controls every process, every password, every decision, like the team is very fragile, because the moment that person becomes unavailable for whatever reason, man, everything comes to a screeching halt. Everything has to stop. This is why, delevation will build capacity, but cover down will create resilience. Because when you have intentionally brought people alongside you, when you've delevated properly, when you shared information and developed other people, man, the team becomes more adaptable. They can cover down in moments of need. Now, cover down is also a really great humility test for your team. Because sometimes in filling a void, it might feel like you're stepping into work that should be quote unquote beneath you in a sense, some people would say, right? It's not the most exciting work, right? Or it's not something that you're going to receive recognition for. It's something that maybe isn't even visible. People aren't even going to know about it. But it might be what the team needs most in that moment. And so those moments are going to reveal whether you are more committed to your status or to the mission itself. And it's easy to say that we're team players when the team needs our expertise. But it's a little bit harder to say that when the team simply just needs my hands. Right? Sometimes leadership looks like making the strategic decision. Other times, maybe it just looks like setting up chairs. Sometimes, it looks like being the one to lead the meeting. Other times, it looks like helping someone else prepare to lead the meeting. Sometimes, it looks like being on a platform, and other times it looks like doing something behind the scenes that nobody will ever notice. The assignment could change, but the commitment to the mission doesn't. And so covering down also means that we don't need credit every time that we step in for something. Again, if it's a part of our culture, if it's a value, if it's just who we are, if this is just what we do, I don't need recognition every time that I cover down for something, okay? We're not helping so that later we can remind everyone, hey, remember that time that I stepped in and filled that gap and that void and I helped everyone and everything? No, we're not silently keeping score. We're not creating, some kind of secret debt that somebody else has to repay. No, we're serving the team because we believe what we do as an organization matters. And the goal isn't to I don't want to become the hero. The goal is for the team to succeed, for us to accomplish the mission, right? Some leaders will step into the gap and then they will use that moment to prove how important they are, how vital they are, right? Making sure that everyone knows that they're the ones that save the day. And then they go on to undermine the person who was originally responsible for the thing, right? For whatever reason that they might not be there. And that is not what it means to cover down. Okay, that's simply just building yourself up at the expense of somebody else. Okay, healthy covering down is actually someone who's able to protect the person that's not there while still being able to carry the team and support the mission. Being able to step in with humility, to communicate clearly, to do what is needed. And then, hey, when that person returns, when they come back to their role to help fill that void, man, being able to give them responsibilities back, and I don't need any recognition for this, was happy to do it. So, a few questions to be asking yourself this month, right? Do the people around me know enough to be able to support my role? Do I know enough to be able to support theirs? Have we created systems that allow someone else to step in? And am I willing to step in even if nobody recognizes, even if I don't get any credit for it? And lastly, principle number 3, team one. Team one. We borrowed this language from Patrick Lencioni. If you're unfamiliar, you just Google him. He's got tons of great resources. But he has this kind of concept of the first team. And it's very much like the same principle, same idea here. And the basic idea is that a leader's first priority should be to the deepest rooted leadership team that they are a part of. So their priority is to the leadership team that they're a part of, not simply the department or the team that they themselves personally lead. So let me, expound on this a little bit more with how we have things structured with our team and with our church, because we use something called the Matthew 12 tree to structure our organization. Now, in a typical org chart, a lot of time you see there's the pyramid, right? So and it's top down. You have the CEO all the way at the top, right? You have the C-suite, and then positions are kind of cascading downward from there. And the direction of the narrative in that pyramid is that as at the top, right? As the leader, the idea being that you as the employee, you work for me, right? You are in my life to make my job easier. And so that's kind of the typical org chart. But with us, with our team, we don't have the pyramid. We have a tree. We call it the Matthew 12 tree. And it's taken from the Bible. It's taken from Matthew chapter 12, where Jesus is talking about how you will know a tree by its fruit. And so the tree, it kind of takes that pyramid idea of the org chart and it inverts it. It flips it upside down, because, man, in the kingdom of God, leadership is servanthood. And so our lead pastor, he doesn't sit at the top of the pyramid. He sits at the root of the tree, because, man, his role, his responsibility is to help build up. It is to help support the church. And really, it's to help support the church, but in the org chart, it's kind of he helps support the pastoral team, and then the pastors help support their directors, and the directors support their branches and teams, and so on and so forth. And it sets a new narrative in leadership, not, again, right back to that pyramid. It's not that you are in my life to make my job easier. No. But as the leader, I'm in your life to help build you up, to help support you. And so within our culture, within our team, we don't talk about direct reports. We don't have direct reports. We use direct supports. Oh, they are my direct support. I am your direct support. I'm the one who's supporting you. It's not that you report to me. It's that I support you. And so from the root of the tree, right, we have different branches that extend kind of into various departments, and there's different ministries, and we have different teams, and every leader is either within a branch or they have a branch that they're kind of caring for, or that they help lead, and they have responsibilities, right? And of course, each, person that helps lead within a branch, like they care about the health and success of the area that they support. But the Team One principle simply means that, like, before I represent my branch to the rest of the organization, I have to represent the organization to my branch. I want to say that again. Before I represent my branch to the organization, I have to represent the organization to my branch. And it's not always easy, because the people that you directly lead, right? The people on your team, they're the people that you spend the most time with. You hear their concerns. You understand their workload. You see their needs. Like, you naturally want to advocate for them. And that's a good thing, right? Like, leaders should be advocating for their teams. But advocacy can slowly become territorialism. Okay, we can begin to believe that our team is the most important team, that our needs are the most urgent needs, that our budget should receive the priority, and our calendar should determine everyone else's calendar, and our problems deserve everyone else's immediate attention. And when another department receives something that we wanted, man, all of a sudden we can begin to view them as competition, and this is when silos begin to form. And instead of one organization with one mission, now we've become a collection of teams that are trying to compete and win against each other. And so Team One helps remind us that the other departments, the other branches, man, they are not our competition. Like, we are on the same team. We are carrying the same mission. And sometimes what's best for the whole tree, what's best for the whole organization may not actually be what is easiest for my individual department, my individual branch, right? Like, this principle becomes vital when there is disagreement. And Team One doesn't mean that we never disagree. In fact, healthy leadership teams should be able to disagree honestly, right? We should be able to challenge ideas and ask hard questions and express our concerns. Unity does not mean pretending to agree with everything before a decision is made, okay? But once the decision has been made by leadership, once we've discussed the issue, like once we've committed to a direction, Team One means that we have the ability to carry that decision with unity. Okay, as leaders, we don't return back to our teams and our branches and our departments, and it's like, well, this is what they wanted, or, well, leadership decided, that we have to do this. I tried to tell them, but nobody listened. No, like, that's the kind of language that creates division. Okay, it communicates to your team that, like, there is an us and there is them, right? It communicates that it's your branch, like it's your department versus the rest of the organization. And so even when the final decision may not have been your preference, Team One means that you can carry it as our decision. Because the leadership team cannot function if every leader leaves the room and undermines the decision with their own people. The team that you lead, they should be able to trust you as their leader, that you will advocate for them in the room that they are in. And then the leadership team should be able to trust that you will carry alignment out of that room as well. Both are important and both matter. Man, it's easy to support an organizational decision when your department is the one that benefits from it. It's easy to celebrate alignment when, like, your idea is the one that was selected. The real test comes when resources are limited, when another department needs priority or even receives priority, when your calendar has to adjust to something else, when your team has to give something up, when the organization moves in a direction that you might not have personally chosen, that is when we discover whether we are fully committed to the whole mission or if I'm just committed to my piece and my portion of it. Look, team one doesn't mean that your department, that your branch is unimportant. It means that your department exists to serve something bigger than itself. Okay, branches cannot be healthy if disconnected from the root, or if they begin competing with the rest of the tree, right? And so we got to ask ourselves a couple of these questions. Which team receives my first loyalty? And in our context, it should be whatever team I am closest to the root on. That is the team that should receive my first priority. Okay? Next, am I carrying alignment back to my team, or am I carrying frustration? Man, when a decision is made, man, what kind of verbiage am I bringing back to them? Man, leadership decided that. How am I speaking into that? Do I talk about organizational decisions as ours? Hey, this is the decision that we made, or is it like, no, this was their choice, their decision? And team one, so vital to protecting the unity of the team. So closing it out, those are the three final leadership principles. Delevate, man, who am I empowering today? Cover down, where does the team need me to step in? And team one, am I prioritizing the mission of the whole organization over the success of my individual area? Man, imagine what could happen if organizations had leaders that truly lived this way. If leaders were secure enough to develop people who might actually become better than them. If teams were prepared and willing to step into gaps without needing the recognition for it. And if departmental leaders advocated honestly, but ultimately chose the health of the whole organization over their own individual preferences. Man, we would build teams that do not depend entirely on one person. We would build organizations that can adapt when something unexpected happens. And we would build cultures where unity is stronger than individual ambition. So I'll encourage you, as always, there's a lot of information to take in, but man, start with one step. Invite someone into something that you're responsible for, that you carry, that maybe normally you carry alone. Man, begin to teach somebody, something that start to delevate. Don't just delegate and hand off tasks. Elevate people, man. Pour into them. Man, cover down, look for gaps, quietly fill it. You don't need the recognition, right? That you might get for it. No, just do it. Just step in and do the thing. Start to examine, hey, how am I talking about organizational decisions with the people that I lead? And develop people, cover the gaps, protect the mission. This is how we're able to move from being just a collection of very talented individuals to actually becoming one healthy, unified, and effective team. Well, thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Leadership Press podcast. I hope that this conversation has helped you lead with greater intentionality. Man, helps you build healthier teams. It would mean the world to me if you would take a moment to just rate, review, comment, man, share this with a leader that you think would benefit from it. It would mean so much. I'm grateful for you. And until next month, man, keep going, keep leading strong, and keep pressing in. Take care.